What do you want? This is the question that begins the journey of transformation for so many men. What do you want? This is the question that really started me on the path to my own most important self-evolution, to the process of becoming a self-aware and emotionally fluent man. It started with the question, what do I want? Now, to some of you listening, it might sound too simple to be all that important. But for some of you, it might be the Holy Grail. Because the way so many men who are adults today were raised, this question is the thing that defines our lack of agency, that creates the outlines of our trauma. Because knowing and deciding and going after what you want is not a simple thing for everyone. And most of us recognize that we need to do some work. We need to do some healing work when we recognize that we don't have a great answer to that question of what it is that we want. So today on the podcast, we're going to talk about how to unpack that question. We're going to delve into a way into it and offer you some solutions for how you can start to answer it for yourself if it's one that you find difficult. Stay with me. This is Reclaiming the Gentle Man. I'm Dave Lashansky. So when I was about 5 years old, I was learning how to ride my bike. And I remember being in a parking lot with my mom and, starting to get the hang of it. I was able to go maybe like 5 feet at a time. And so we were kind of pushing that distance. How much further can I go? All right, I've got my helmet on, got this. I remember the bike vividly. It was like red and black. It had flames on it, I think. Just really, really cool bike. And I was so excited to learn to ride it. And it was happening, and I was getting it. So I remember I'm seeing my mom. She's about 20 feet away from me, and I'm starting to ride. I pushed off, and I'm going, and suddenly I see in front of me, there is a lamppost directly at my 12 o'clock, and I am headed straight for it. And at that moment, not knowing how to ride my bike, all I knew to do was cry out for help. Mom, move the lamppost. And she loves this story. She loves this story as a testimony to the power young boys think their mothers have. But what's interesting is I think there was a subtle power at play in that is pervasive among adults today, especially adults in relationships, and especially adults in relationships where conflict and emotional regulation are an issue. The force that I believe was at play had less to do with the superpowers I think my mom had, which, yes, granted, fair, I probably did believe she had the power to move that lamppost in that moment. But the energy I'm talking about is the energy of not, the energy of no. And so what do I mean by that? I believe most of us that are adults today were raised not to be certain ways. We were raised with the energy of not. Don't act like that. Don't be like that. Don't do that. Don't say that. Don't touch that. Don't be that. Don't mess it up. Don't embarrass me. Don't be like that guy. Don't be too masculine. Don't be too feminine. Don't be rude. Most of us as children were given very clear instructions for how not to act. And I think the effect that had for many, many men is struggling to know what we actually want. And the effect that that has, I think, is perfectly exemplified by my inability to turn away from what it is that I didn't want to have happen on my bike. My inability to steer away from that lamppost. One of my teachers, Alyssa Nobriga, taught me the concept of the paradox of transformation, where when we profoundly desire to avoid something happening, when we really don't want to upset our partners, when we really don't want to fail, we end up focusing so much unconscious energy, so much unconscious attention on that outcome that we don't want, that we actually bring that thing into being instead of what we do want. We're focusing on what we don't want to have happen actually magnetizes it to us. It outweighs the impact of our efforts in the opposite direction. It outweighs the power of our desire. And because so many of us were raised with this energy of not, I am sure, and I know this because a lot of men come to me talking about this, that we are all very familiar with the experience of creating the outcome we really didn't want to have happen. We say the thing we really didn't mean to say. We incite the behavior we really wanted to avoid. We lose the thing we really didn't want to lose. The energy of not, this thing that we learned as children, is so powerful and so pervasive. But maybe the most painful way that it shows up for us is not creating the things we didn't want to have happen. We can deal with those in the moment. The more painful thing is that it makes it so hard to answer that question of what it is that we want. When we don't know what we want, we can't harness our full power to create the lives that we want to create, to make the impact that we want to create, to be the partner that we want to be, to have the relationship we want to have, to be supported in the ways we want to be supported. If you don't have an answer to what it is that you want, it can be very hard to feel like you're leading a satisfying life. But here's the reframe if not knowing what you want is something you can relate to. It means you are exactly where you need to be. That frustration, that longing to know what it is that you want is the threshold to whatever next level, whatever new life, whatever new relationship, whatever new kind of love, whatever it is that you want to create. Sitting with that question, sitting with the longing of wanting an answer, that is the answer. That is the threshold. That is the way through. I'll never forget when I was being interviewed by the man who led the first men's intensive I ever attended. He just asked, "What do you want?" And my response to him was, I want to know what it is that I want. I want to have an answer to that question because I'm tired of not having one. For most of us, discovering what we want requires us to go back into the past and recognize all the ways that that energy of not, all the ways that trying not to be a certain way, being overly critical, trying to fit in a very specific, outlined, clean, pure, perfect, sanctioned box, has made it so hard to actually pursue something without questioning ourselves or abdicating any power and agency we need to wield to get there. The effect of knowing very clearly what you don't want, how you don't want to be, how you don't want to show up, what you don't want to have happen, is that it makes it very difficult to pursue what you want. And for some of us, to even know what it is. So if this is you, if you are really relating to this and thinking, wow, I really don't know what it is that I want, or wow, I am sensing that this question might be the thing that is creating all of the conflict in my relationship. So many men are familiar with the frustration that their partner has when we don't have an answer, we don't have a preference, right? The energy of not has raised us to believe that it's okay to be easygoing, to not make decisions, to not be clear. And when she asks you what you want to do, you say, I don't care, whatever you want. What you want to eat, I don't care, whatever you want. What are you trying to build? I don't care, what do you want? So many of us are stuck in this trap and we don't even realize that we're doing this. In fact, what we think we're doing is being generous. What we think we're doing is giving space, because that's what we were raised to do. That's what the energy of not teaches you. Don't have the opinion. Don't make the preference. Don't insert yourself into the situation. Don't insert your opinions or your desires. And the message that the child receives is, cut yourself off from that. It's safer there. That's what they want of you. And when you cut yourself off from your desire, when you cut yourself off from the courage, the confidence it takes to put yourself out there by wanting, by pursuing, by choosing, it creates really painful problems in your relationship. So if this is you, if you are relating to this experience of being easygoing in your relationship, of not really having an answer of what it is that you want, that you're pursuing, that you are directing your energy to create in the world, this is for you. And the first step is to go back into your childhood and look at all the ways you learned not to do, not to be, not to say, not to act. Look at them. This is why I think therapy is so often the thing people think men need, because oftentimes therapy is this practice of going into your past and looking at what was missing. But I think if you take this practice seriously, if you go back and you look at what it is that you wanted when it felt safe to want something, it could be as simple as mine. I wanted to be a baseball player. I loved baseball. I wanted to be center fielder for the Boston Red Sox. And when I think about when I realized that wanting that wasn't okay, when I realized that wanting that was immature, when I realized that wanting that would be embarrassing, that moment held a powerful truth for me, which is that being humiliated supercharged the power of not for me. What made it so hard for me to decide what I wanted was that fear of being laughed at for it. And the idea is not that I should have pursued becoming a center fielder for the Red Sox. The idea is that I was driven away from that, not by context, not by the reality that I didn't practice or even like baseball enough to do that, but that I didn't want to be embarrassed. That's what matters. Reckoning with what you want means reckoning with what keeps you from pursuing it. Now, this is tough work to do alone. I do think it's possible, but I really highly recommend doing this in a container, like a men's circle, a therapist's office, like working with a coach. Those are 3 things that if you are struggling with knowing what it is that you want, I don't think you can afford not to invest in. Because the reason it's coming up for you, the reason it feels so painful, the reason you're listening to a podcast like this is because it's becoming unbearable not knowing anymore. It is becoming unbearable not knowing what it is that you want and not knowing why you don't know what you want. Doing that investigation changed my life completely. doing the work to reckon with the anger I didn't let myself feel, with the humiliation I endured that made being humiliated so painful for me, was not easy work. The point is not that this is an easy, fun thing to do. The best description of self-work, of men's work that I've heard, is that it's trench work. It's labor. But if you can do this in a community or in a container with even just one other person, however hard it is to turn toward the pain, to turn toward whatever happened to you, is equally as beautiful and rich and sustaining an experience, because you are being witnessed by someone in the process. When we allow people to witness the parts of us that we have shut off, closed off to, that we believe are unlovable, that we are terrified of, that we are unconscious of, when we allow ourselves to be witnessed in that space, reckoning with that part of us, there are few more rewarding, fulfilling, connecting experiences that a human being can have. It is beautiful. And it will drive you to continue onward. There's a reason that when we have these profound experiences in community or in therapy, that we start to act differently. There's a reason why we choose to look at the hard stuff. Not because we're gluttons for punishment and love flicking that wound, though some people do, and some people get trapped in that. No, the point here is that however hard it is equally as rewarding and sustaining and revolutionary to your nervous system to be witnessed in that, to be held in that by other people. If you don't know what it is that you want, exploring that is a powerful, beautiful journey that I highly recommend you embark on. You can try it out alone, but I recommend doing it in one of those three containers, either therapy, men's groups, or coaching. And I also want to invite you to my men's circles, because starting in 2026, I will be hosting monthly men's circles for us to do exactly this kind of work, for us to hold exactly this kind of community where we connect and meet and do this kind of work together. If you would rather start with therapy, go for it. If you're more comfortable in coaching spaces, go for it. I just want you to start taking action on this. It is coming up for you for a reason, and I think that is so important. And I commend you for leaning into it. I commend you for even reckoning with the question. If you don't know what you want, you're in exactly the right place. Don't lose heart. Don't give up. And don't go it alone. Thank you for listening to this episode of Reclaiming the Gentle Man. This month, we will be hosting a series of our Letting Love In workshops. This first one will be focused on ending defensiveness. If you've been called out for being defensive in relationship, whether you're in one now or have been in the past, first of all, you are not alone. We all do this sometimes, but having the tools and skills to know how to come out of that, to recognize when you are doing it, and to call your partner forward with you if that is your pattern, these workshops are for you. Highly recommend it. Go to davelashansky.com to join. It's free. You have nothing to lose. Would love to see you there. If you are interested in joining my upcoming monthly men's circles, you will need to first participate in Reclaiming the Gentle Man, my 21-day transformational program for men. If you haven't already participated, You can sign up for the waitlist at daveleshansky.com. You'll see a join waitlist button in the top right corner. Click that and you will be directed to exactly where you need to be to stay informed for when that opens up in February. These men's circles that will follow are maybe my favorite place to continue to do the work together in community. It is so simple and so powerful to meet like that, and I would love for you to join. So check the link in the show notes. I will be sharing more information about this, so make sure you enter your email to join the waitlist and hear all the updates as this unfolds. Wishing you a beautiful rest of your day or night, and sending love. I'll be back in a week.